Welcome back to another episode of the Alternative Medicine Success Stories podcast. Today, my guest is a holistic natural health doctor who resides in Jamaica. There, she operates a healing center focusing on patients with a range of illnesses from traumas to anxiety and depression. To explain how she does it, please welcome Dr. Michele D Moore. Doctor, how are you?
I am wonderful. I'm at peace. I'm good. Thank you.
It's always a good day when you're at peace.
Yes, I am.
So I
And how
always
are
like
you?
to. Oh, I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. Also at peace.
This is great what you're doing. So it's a pleasure to be here and to share as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey that I'm going on here, and I'm really excited to keep meeting people like yourself and finding out all of these alternative ways that people are finding health. And that's why you're here today to give a little bit of background about yourself, how you got started with healing, and how you got, why you became a doctor and holistic healing. So why don't you start there and tell us about yourself?
Sure. Um, just a slight warning though that I do like to talk, and there's always just context and background. So I will give you hopefully enough, but the short version of the story. So I've always been interested in the body, this magnificent machine that we have, how it works, just individuals, different people, and how we connect and respond and react to each other. So there was always that inquisitiveness inside me. And I also knew that I wanted to study that particular area, wasn't quite sure what and when. So this holistic side of me only came to life a couple of years ago. And that all started, so I'm pretty sure you can hear, I'm British born, living in Jamaica, migrated. And even that was, a part of a journey of self-discovery and getting in tune with who I am and what I know I like as an individual. I knew I needed elements of nature to thrive. I could see that when I traveled the world, when I'd come to Jamaica on several occasions, and I needed the sunshine. I couldn't function without that. I needed, the water, the river, the mountains. I just knew that it took me to a different level of awareness and just connecting with my inner being. So I migrated partly because of that. I also had a calling on one vacation that led me to take that move to pack everything up and come to Jamaica. It's been a spiritual journey, and recently discovering it's more of a definitely self-discovery, healing journey, which has been, it's just like the story unfold. It's really quite amazing. I always look at myself outside myself, from the physical being experiencing life and the world, and then the spiritual being and the experiences that are not so unique to me as an individual. That's how we connect and we relate to each other, because sometimes we feel like we're the only ones going through certain issues and traumas, but really they're not so unique. It's just that we're maybe not so open to sharing and understanding. So, so that's the sort of the beginning part of my journey, and then it took a turn. um, about 4 years ago, during my journey in Jamaica, I experienced two traumas, back to back, life threatening, and that completely changed my world, changed my life. And that brought me on a journey of in deeper self-discovery. So there's me thinking, I'm in control of this discovery and finding myself. And those traumas took it to a different level. I migrated by myself, so all my family, my immediate family, are in the UK, still are. But I was determined to heal, and that's when this holistic journey really came to life. It was the first time in my life. We all, we've dealt with disappointment, depression, and certain issues, but it was the first time that I had to deal with everything all at once. And when I say everything, I mean physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, everything simultaneously destroyed, taken away. Never have I ever experienced that low. It led me to become suicidal. I planned my suicide. It was a complete, words can't even explain. So even just being on this journey, I just get so many reminders that I could have, you know, gone somewhere else. I could have chosen a different path because I was that close. A friend actually saved my life through a conversation. So at that point of complete and utter, you know, low, dead inside, there was just nothing else in me. That conversation opened my awareness and made me think, dig a bit deeper, as strong as I am, but that was just a bit too much to take myself on a path of, you know, healing and really healing. So really healing from within. And sometimes we think we can do it ourselves and, you know, we can just endure a fight a bit longer. But when it's on all these levels, you definitely need some help outside yourself. So I took myself on that journey. I got therapy, counseling. There were different ways that I just decided to take that path of deep. It was a complete reconstruction of myself. So I got there eventually. And I realized that, wow, I literally could have ended this. And this is now what I'm doing. Decided to study and eventually become a doctor. And now I'm healing others. And most of my healing is actually with trauma. And this, I believe, is just really, this is my calling, this is my purpose. I've actually connected with what I am, you know, ordained to do. It's not as though I went around waving a flag, you know, this is me, this is, you know, what I can do for you. Naturally, these people just kept coming with these traumatic experiences, and they matched what I went through. So there's the academic side, you know, we can study things, but then there's the empathy side where, having been through it, being able to take someone somewhere where you have been and you've healed yourself from is extremely powerful. And I absolutely love what I do because I felt it, I've been there, and I know if I can do this, I personally, physically, emotionally took myself on that journey. I'm now empowering and showing other people that there is a different way, and there is a deeper way, but it's more effective, it's life-changing, and it's definitely a natural way, but most of all, allowing you to connect with your authentic you and become the best version of you, which a lot of us have never seen because we haven't done that internal work. So that's where it all began.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That's deeply personal, and I'm sure that that your, you know, the people who come to you for healing, when you share that with them, it probably really opens them up immediately, thinking, "Wow, if she can do it, I can do it," and that probably separates you from any other person because you do have the empathy, and so that's really really powerful. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. How how do you start with a person who comes to you? Are there certain techniques that you use that, you know, are more holistic, that get them going on the path that, you know, that got you initially going?
Yes. Before I answer the question, just to go back to what you said, I've never shared this. I don't share this with clients. I just more focus on just being and and connecting and healing and just letting the natural powers work really. However, I decided that I know this is quite important, and I know people can relate more. And I said, this is a new chapter, this new year, and I'm always about growth. And I wanted to, in this chapter, share more about my journey. But before, it was more just focusing on the path, the journey, the healing, connecting with people. But I'm now on more of a mission to really share, to drive more of an emphasis and empowerment that, even though you're going through it, this is, it's really important to share and to speak up. So here I am sharing. How do I start? Initially, it's a conversation, just a conversation. And I realize how powerful conversation is because it saved my life. Um, so that's just the initial consultation for the prospective client to really feel me to understand them. Some people are very close to counseling or therapy or even just talking about themselves, their lives. And so my approach is just very informal, very relaxed. I don't like to put labels. Yes, I have to, share with the world what I do. So therapists, consulting, doctor, but it's really for me about the experience. And then you can put whatever title you want to it. But it's that conversation, trying to find out what you're dealing with. And most of the time, when people come to me, it's a lot more than what they thought it was. Because, we all need that help to understand ourselves. We have this amazing machine, and unfortunately, most of us just haven't figured out how to use it effectively and how effective it is in terms of the synergistic interaction, body, mind, spirit. They all work in tandem. All three key elements need to function and be aligned in order to be as effective as they're made to be. So that's basically where I start.
Start there. Okay. Yeah, those three elements are something I'm hearing more and more as the deeper I dive into this is that if one is out of sync, then the others are
Right.
immediately out of sync, and your body starts feeling pain, or your mind starts deteriorating. You can have so many issues. And it's interesting because I think that's kind of what Western medicine is missing is, they're just focusing on the physical aspect of it, and they're not focusing on the mental and on the spiritual side of it. And luckily we have the internet now, and people are starting to find out that that's the other missing element to the healing. And some way along the way we lost that because it was there, thousands of years ago, and then we just lost it.
Exactly.
Well, I would like to talk to you specifically about fasting
Mm-hmm.
because this is how I found you on the internet. You um, have written and published an article about it. You recently have done a 7-day fast yourself, and there are some amazing healing work that can be done through fasting. And so could you explain to, someone who doesn't even understand what fasting is, who think it's probably starvation, could you explain to them that it's not starvation and that's actually healing?
Exactly. That's exactly where I was about to start. And with a lot of things, it all starts with the mind. So fasting is your mental awareness and understanding that this is a fast and not starvation. So it really starts there. And understanding that you ideally, hopefully, are taking this fast because you want to, not because you've been forced or told to. And for the right purposes. Some people go into fasting for weight loss, for a miracle to happen, quick fix. I definitely wouldn't advise that. It's about healing. Um, and fasting is about giving this body a complete rest. And there are different elements of rest: physiological rest, physical rest, emotional rest. And it's a complete rest because every single day we put some strain, some effort on ourselves, one way or the other. So fasting is a complete stop, halt to all of that, and especially the physiological rest, which is eating. I mean, most people have never gone a day without food. You know, to skip a meal is like a stretch for some people. So the biggest rest here we're talking about is the physiological rest, the food, putting a halt to the digestive system, which has a huge impact on the whole organism.
Do the patients that come to your retreat, do they do partake in fasting at all?
Um, I have guided some fasts. They don't necessarily need to come here, but people can. This retreat is open to healing on a whole, so you could come just to get some sleep. People come to fast, to partake in therapy sessions, whether that's individually with me or the yoga that's on site, different workshops. Um, so it varies. I would definitely recommend that anybody taking a fast for a certain period of time, over 24 hours, your environment is very key. So if you can take yourself away, that would be ideal. Um, but there are different types of fasts. So I mean, some people call fasting. Um, you have fruit fasts, vegetable fasts, carbohydrate fasts, protein fasts. So it's just eliminating certain foods. But a real fast is a water fast where you're just consuming water, no food, not for fixed hours of a day. That's intermittent fasting. Some people do that for religious reasons. That's intermittent fasting. A real fast is no consumption of any form of drink other than water and no food for consistent fixed period of time. So,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, those who haven't fasted before, those who haven't gone without a meal, it's best to just start the process. If you're looking to, okay, embark on fasting, if it's new to you, I would definitely take baby steps to fasting, unless there is a medical reason where you wish to heal and you wish to go full into it and go for a longer period of time, which is highly recommended that you get a guided fast of a practitioner who is experienced, understands. Definitely do not do this alone, especially if it's your first time. So you could start with one day, 24 hours. I did this kind of drive on social media to encourage people to go for 24 hours, one day fast, completely safe. And, some people were like, no. And some people were adamant they couldn't do it. And with my guidance, I was like, come on, we can do this. We can do this. Just 24 hours. It's safe. You have enough reserves. That's the thing. We all have enough reserves, at least for 24 hours. It's all up in here. It's you telling yourself you need the breakfast, you need this, you need that. And really the body is crying for you to just, hey, no food. Let me just work with what I have. Let me do some healing and we can come back to food a bit later.
It's almost like a reset with your body.
Exactly. Exactly. It does so much. I mean, we spend so much of our time eating. And what a lot of people don't understand is it's not just about when you're physically putting the food in your mouth. There's so much that happens thereafter in terms of the digestive process. So, most of us think, okay, we just had a meal, sit down for half an hour, I'm fully digested. No. The period of time it takes to fully digest, and that all depends on the food that you eat. Every food has a different digestive time period, and especially if it's incompatible with another food, so carbohydrate and protein issue. So that's going to cause a longer period of digestion and indigestion, which has its own complications. So the body is almost continuously trying to digest, continuously. So the body can't do two major things at once. For example, you just have a big breakfast and you're like, oh, I really need to get my run in. So I've had my breakfast, okay, 5-10 minutes. and let me go for the run. Your body now has to focus physically, you're moving. It has to focus on physically pumping the blood, getting your legs to move, getting your arms to move, dealing with respiratory organs. So it has to stop the digestion of your food. And there's an issue. The food should not sit in your stomach, in your gut, without being fully digested. There's going to be an issue in digestion. And a lot of our lifestyle issues come back to food. A lot of diseases come back to food, incompatibility. In fact, I wrote another article about incompatible food choices being the #1 cause of disease in adults and children. All stems back to food. And it's not just about what we're eating, it's about how we're eating it and what we're combining it with. So some people feel that, oh, I'm healthy, I eat nuts and seeds and I'm vegan. I personally am vegan, but you can be unhealthy vegan if you're eating it. The food is all about science. So you have to understand the science to food and to digestion. So when we're fasting, we are allowing the body to utilize the reserves, and most of us have at least a week, like more than that sometimes, of reserves. So first, the body is going to utilize the all the reserves and nutrients that are still in the body. Some are in the digestive system, some are in fatty tissue cells, in the muscle glycogen. Once those reserves are utilized, then it's going to be careful about how it now utilizes the additional reserves in the digestive system. And once that's fully complete, you will get to a stage of real hunger where the body says, I need food reserves. And that's the reason why we should eat, is to give the body the energy. So once it's utilized, completely utilized all the energy, that's when the body will say, I'm hungry. And the body speaks to us. But we just need to learn the language of the body. So hunger is not really this, bawling, growling pain in the stomach. That's false hunger. Real hunger is a throat and a mouth sensation. It's like a thirst, a call for thirst. That's the body saying, I am hungry. So you could fast and you could say, I'm going to let the body allow me to tell me when it's used all of my reserves. And of course, you will lose weight and you will lose water, but you will not die. The body knows when to tell you it's hungry. We're just so used to having 3 meals a day. We're so used to having, just to scoff food and not think about it, just to eat and not think about, does the body actually need this amount? And if you're doing less, you should consume less. So if you're getting older and you're not as active, then, or you could be young and not as active, you really don't need to overload the body with all of that food. So once you give the body that opportunity to use the reserves, it now can focus on healing, and that's when the magic happens. That's when the amazing stuff that we don't often see happens in the body. So dead cells, autolysis of, it could be lymphs and nodes and cells that just don't need to be there, whether it's causing you issues or not, whether you knew it was there. The body is doing the work inside that you cannot see. And there are stuff that we can see. So you could have had an issue with irritable bowels. Acid reflux is quite a common one. Even sleep, dark circles under the eyes, bad skin, bad breath. So many of these issues, obviously, the longer the fast, the more effective, because the more time you're allowing the body to heal. But then again, it's, can you, endure that fast? You have to be realistic and not just say, I want to heal and I want to put everything into it. It needs to be guided, and you need to obviously have some medical check to see whether there isn't any underlying issues, and you can withstand a fast. But a lot of it is mental. a lot of it is mental.
I can only imagine how much of it's mental. I mean, going, a full day
Mm,
is extremely hard. I've only gone like one full day, and it
yeah,
was purely out of curiosity if I could do it. um, but the more I read about it, the more I'm interested in trying to do a little bit longer. Not that I'm trying to heal something, but more
mhm,
specifically just to like give my body that break to see
right,
how I will feel afterwards,
right.
and to see if it brings my level of awareness to another, to the next plateau. Would you recommend someone who like has, us like, I don't know how to explain it. Someone who has diabetes, for example, would you recommend for them to do a fast?
Um, I always recommend medical clearance from a medical doctor. So that's rule number one. And especially if you have identified issues like diabetes, because that can be tricky. So, and there are ways to still be more effective in terms of your diet and maybe weaning yourself off medications and adjusting sort of your sugar intake. But diabetes can be complicated. So I would definitely, and there's different levels to diabetes as well. There's some people that really can't go without certain foods, and obviously have to have insulin, insulin for quite some time. They can't miss their insulin. So
Mm.
medical doctor would definitely have to give the final clearance on that one.
Yeah, you have your type 1 and type 2, so
Yeah,
um, I'd assume you have to, yeah, absolutely have the clearance from the doctor first.
right, exactly. Because I am not a medical doctor. However, in terms of fasting, good for you for doing your 24 hours. I feel that it kickstarts as an adjustment to your changing your food or your lifestyle. So those who may be addicted to certain foods or wish to, I don't like the word diet, but wish to change their food and maybe eliminate certain foods or not be so addicted to certain foods or snacking. When you just do that 24-hour, it really kind of is a good kickstart, because I feel it gets rid of some of the cravings, and it also empowers your mind that yes, if I can do this, I can definitely say no to X, Y, and Z. So a 24-hour is a really good way to start. How did you feel like mentally? Did you get any kind of mental clarity after the 24 hours?
The the thing I noticed the most was that I actually could do it, that I had the mental capacity
Right.
to hold out and not eat, but I sure was counting those hours down when it came to the end. But I did feel lifted. I felt lighter. I felt just generally better. It wasn't like, that it's like, oh, once I got there, and I had a small juice after my 24 hours, and I was like, well, that really wasn't that bad. I think I could have gone longer. And I'm relatively small. I only weigh 145 pounds.
Right.
But I felt like I could have gone longer, and I will eventually try to do it. I'm curious, definitely. What is the longest that you've ever done it?
7 days, and it's so funny. Every time I say it, I feel like, really? Wow, 7 days? Because for me personally, you also have to, it's not just a mental thing, that you have to be in that state of being as well. Um, and again, your lifestyle is a factor, and your environment. So, if you're really busy, or you have something coming up, it might not be ideal. You as an individual should kind of know, this would be a good space for me. So there's times I've desired to do another 7 days, and realistically I'm like, well, I have this going on, or I don't feel I could fully put my mind into the 7 days. But I've done it twice. The first time was more I guess maybe it's the first of anything. I felt, wow, that spiritual enlightenment, unbelievable. I cannot even explain. Um, and it was slightly different to the second one. I felt was more challenging, but I feel that the first one I took myself to France. I was in this on a farm. It was like this retreat, almost cabin in a tree, and then it was just amazing, so beautiful, and there was sunshine. And the other one I did here, yes, I have the sunshine, which is a really important factor in fasting, but I didn't take myself from my home environment. I did switch off, but then I had to be in touch in terms of technology and communication a bit. So as compared to France, nothing, no device, nothing. I listened to music a bit, but even that was a bit of an effort. So every single thing was resting, my ears, my mouth, like I wasn't speaking to anyone. I went to see the animals, feed the animals. That was a highlight of my day.
Yeah.
Going to feed the cows and the goats. Um, and picked some of the walnuts off the tree that fell on the ground. Just connecting with nature, it was just amazing, um, and I felt lighter in every way you can imagine. Mentally, it was just clarity. Physically lighter, um, energy. Just I just literally felt like I was floating. And I loved it so much. I didn't want to break the fast. I didn't want to break the fast. It was like I was in a new dimension, a new world in this world. It was just, and then, you get past like getting up that hill. The first 3 days was a challenge. And then after, you get the odd kind of sensation. And then for me, it was, I'm liking this here. I want to stay here. um, but fix the time, meet that goal, and maybe another time I could extend it. But that was what I set myself out to achieve, and I did. But it's kind of it's really hard to describe. I literally would just say, try it in the most, the safest way you can. It does so much more than the physical healing. Um, and the best way to describe it is that we're made up of so many layers. So even food is energy, the food that we have in our system. So once that's eliminated, um, and even the toxins that are released, um, we become this energy, this being that's open to absorb everything that it needs. And it's definitely more sensitive. So you become more aware. Um, Even smells and maybe smoke or stuff that the body just rejects, because you've peeled those layers and you've cleansed and purified and healed. The body is now able to recognize them. It's just like, for example, condiments, vinegar and pepper and salt and stuff. Um, Sometimes people eat pepper, and they can eat some crazy pepper, but they never started that way. They've just slowly increased their pepper intake, and now they can probably bite into a pepper, because the body has had to adjust. Um, so the body it's a resilient machine, and it does everything to protect and preserve. So if something like, a pepper, which is an irritant that comes into the body, it now has to build its defense system, and that becomes stronger and stronger. So when you allow it to just naturally be free and rid of these toxins and irritants, stimulants, anything that you now expose it to, even if you were used to it before, you're going to get a completely different response and reaction, because it's now going deeper, and it's touching you at the core after you've cleansed. So it's going to have more of an impact, more of an effect. So every fast is different, even if you fasted before, and every person is going to present a different situation, a different experience to a fast. So even though I'm sharing my experience, I wouldn't want anybody to expect or to, to have this as an ultimate takeaway as this is what's going to happen. This was my experience. And as I explained at the beginning, my first fast was different to my second 7-day fast. So it's all about where you are physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. But the greatest thing is that it's all positive. It's all positive. I got awakening. I got clarity in certain thing I was doing. There's just so much that happens, and it kind of piques your interest. It kind of, oh, I'm a bit intrigued. Let me at least, let me introduce myself to fasting and just start with at least 24 hours and just see how that works with you.
You had mentioned that, everyone reacts differently to fasts. One thing I've read online that is pretty common for most people who have gone through fasts is once they finish, they come back, their skin is glowing, their eyes are clear. And in the videos I watched of you online doing your fast, I noticed that when you came to day 7, your skin was just like radiating, like it was like you put on a whole new face.
Right.
Yeah, so someone maybe who is, suffering with some sort of skin disease or acne, this could be a really good way of them getting the toxins out of their body and letting their skin reset.
Definitely, definitely. And toxins come in many forms. Toxic food, toxic environment, um, toxic fibers. There's just so many things around us that are toxic, even toxic relationships. So everything that happens to us, even on an emotional level, as I said, everything is interconnected, body, mind, and spirit. So even if you're having a mental disorder, it will eventually have a physiological disorder, meaning something happens inside the body. Unfortunately, we can't look through our bodies. We're not made of glass, but sometimes we get that trigger. It could be our heart palpitating, it could be sweat, it could be trembles. Sometimes we get them instantly, body talking to us, and sometimes it's not years later when we're maybe diagnosed with a disease or we have some kind of imbalance. But it all stemmed from being out of line, out of alignment, being in a disorder, which creates a disease, which is disease. And so every single day is important. It's not about waiting until the time comes, not waiting until we have a problem. It's about how best could you help yourself and your body, even when you can't see what's going on, even if your body's not speaking to you immediately. What's the best I can do for myself today?
Do you believe, well, or in your opinion, like disease can be hereditary, that it can be from your DNA, or do you think most of it is from the outside elements?
Definitely, most of it is outside elements and lifestyle. And if you think about it, I think a lot of the term hereditary, in terms of when people want to say this is hereditary, diabetes, for example, um, it comes from your lifestyle. Grandparents passing it on to parents, parents passing it on to their children. The foods that they even certain cultures, even the Jamaican culture, definitely like sugar, love sugar. Um, so much sweetness in so many foods and drinks. Um, Heavy foods like the ground provisions and yams and sweet potato, heavy on rice. And so when you grow up in this culture and you're used to a Sunday dinner being a certain way and frying your food a certain way, you bring this down to your next generation. And a lot of disease is stemmed from the food. So yes, some are and some aren't. It's really looking at your lifestyle, especially your food, and how you can correct a lot of it with with your food and with your lifestyle and with your relationships. I stress so much about relationships and your being and communication because it's really really important. It does so much. in terms of your mind, and the mind is a starting point with everything, you know. And if you're feeling low and depressed and you have poor relationships, you're likely to abuse food and use food as a substitute, or start smoking or drinking if you have poor relationships with people at work, or if you have stress. Stress is a big factor. So food is a big part. Also your relationship with others, and more importantly, your relationship with yourself.
Where does someone start when they need to just take a 360 view of what's going around with it, like them, like what's going on internally with their relationships, their food? Where does someone just start and say, how do I assess this?
That's a really good question. Really good question, because um, a lot of people just are stuck and not sure, and also unaware that what they're doing or a relationship can actually be affecting the issues that they have um, in their life, which now affect the issue that they have with food, for example. So when a client comes to me with, okay, I have a really bad relationship with my food and I'm overweight and I have these complications, you know, help me. I deal with everything with a holistic approach. So I don't just want to give you a quick fix and give you, you know, the knowledge about nutrition and a health plan. I need to get to the root cause, and that's what I do. It's not palliation, it's not sticking a plaster over it. And it's also not trying to get my clients keep coming back to me. I want you to manage your food, and so that you can self-administer, that you can guide yourself. So we need to get to the root cause. So your overeating and your addiction to foods is usually stem from something that's mental, whether you're having a conflict with inner conflict with yourself, a relationship, could be something in your childhood. So I would say to somebody, think out of the box. Don't just look at or think of the issue that you're having. Just look
Mm,
at wanting to improve yourself on a whole and heal everything, because you'll be surprised that when you take that approach, it's almost like getting more for your money. You know, you're not only going to deal with an issue at hand that you can see and feel, but it could be something that hasn't yet risen, and you're able to resolve it before it even sort of manifests. So I would say take yourself into a quiet space and really ask yourself, if you know yourself, like, who are you? And ask yourself what you want. So sometimes when you pose the question, who are you? That's where I find a lot of my clients get stuck. I don't really know. I'm not asking you what you do. It's not about your profession. But who are you? Tell me who you are at the core. And it's a complete blank. And that's when you realize, wow, they're really my hobbies, my interests, my desires, how I thrive, um, you know, what my tastes are, what my being is. Or is it what my mum told me I should be, or what the world told me I should be, or other people's expectation? That's usually very common. But to fully describe you as an individual, as a being, like, who are you in this world? What would people say about you? And what do you give? What do you share and show behind the scenes, behind the suit and the job, and and everything you give to others? So that's the first question. And then that will take you on a journey of self discovery and deciding, wow, I really, for the first time in my life, want to know me. Like,
right.
wow, I want that relationship with me, which involves spending time with yourself, understanding how you became you because of things you were taught, because of maybe trauma of the past, because expectations of people and just this whole society. And that was another reason why I decided to leave England, because it's all about what they expect you to do and be, and forget about listening to your inner self. So there was always that internal conflict, because I'm like, this is what I should be versus this is what I am and want to be and discover. So this is now about connecting with you and every single person. That's why this is so rewarding, that when you see someone evolve and grow and blossom into this amazing butterfly, shining the colors, their true colors are on full display because they've identified with themselves. They've healed themselves from the past and they are now fully intact with who they are, and they shine that brightness, and they are completely own who they are, and they are proud, and they can deal with whatever life throws at them. That's the biggest thing, because we will always have. I've been on this journey, and yes, I've healed, and I can heal others. I'm not saying I don't have issues of life. Things always push us to grow, to learn, to evolve. It's about how we deal with them, how we respond to life, and not react because of who we were then, but now, once we've healed, who we are and how we can effortlessly flow. So, without me going too much in,
No,
because
yeah.
that will start flowing.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That, I mean, just asking yourself that deep question, a lot
Yeah,
of people probably never even do that in their entire life. In
I
their
like.
entire life. And that is really sad, because you have to know who you are. And that's something that I'm just going through now. And that's why I started this podcast, because I'm diving in deep. I've gone through some heartbreak and some business failures, and now I'm like, well, what now? So I started looking within, and that's the question that I've asked myself, and I didn't have the answer. When I asked myself, who am I didn't know.
That's
And
it.
it gave me the curiosity of like, okay, well, who can I become? Because I can be whoever I want in this world. I can be the best version of myself, or I can be the worst version of myself. And I think when you start working on that path to becoming your best version of yourself, you start to immediately heal yourself from things that you didn't even know that you had.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow. You said it in one. Um, I just find that so fascinating, that we can heal. I think that's the biggest thing for me, that sometimes we get in such a low, whether that's whatever issue that you're dealing with, and you kind of think that you're the only one going through it, and this is the worst ever, and there's no comeback. And there's always a way, and it's so easy to say, but healing for me is really different to pulling up your socks and deciding to combat and deciding to just be a warrior and deal with. There's a big difference. Sometimes people get that confused. It's not about building the resilience alone to deal with life
Mm-hmm.
and to push it as far back in your memory bank as possible. Because for me, that's like border suppressive. We're not dealing with it here. We're just kind of pushing it as far away back so we don't have to deal with it ever, see it again. But we'll find in life it keeps on resurfacing, or you start to get yourself into situations, issues, and you're like, why is this still happening? And here again, we need to deal with that deep rooted issue that we never dealt with way back when.
Mm-hmm.
So healing, that's where the healing comes into it, where we have healed, we've accepted, we've acknowledged, we've dealt with forgiveness with ourselves and the other person, possibly. And we're now allowing ourselves to become and evolve. So the healing is really key. And it is different to, I'm just going to be strong. I'm going to just learn all about self development. I'm going to learn about the most powerful person being. It's not just about strength. A lot of it is actually weakness, and owning that weakness and understanding it's okay. And without weakness, There is no powerful. There is no strong. There is no endurance. There is no, you know, wearing your great armor. It's you have to experience that weakness, but acknowledge, own it, understand it, and it's okay. And you can become anything. So I just want anybody out there to. Sometimes I think people. I used to do this. Look at people and think, oh, they're just made out of some strength that they were just made that way, and they don't understand, and people will never understand and never get it. I can't stress enough that it does not matter who you are, what you have, when you're dealing with emotions, that is where we are all connected and we are all the same. So you might have millions of dollars, somebody else might have $1, but emotionally, we are all human and we can heal and we can do the work. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. As I said, I will planned my suicide. I actually don't even know how I'm here. When you look and you think, how did it's almost as though that did happen because it was so close to happening.
Mhm.
And so that's why I stress so hard and I really try to, if I hear anybody that's even borderline that, need to emphasize, don't look at it as something amazing happened to this person or me. This can happen to you. It's just about being open. And the first thing is sharing. Sharing is the most powerful thing you can. Just letting somebody hear and understand. Just a conversation. Letting it out from what's been buried. Speaking to somebody. And you know, I am here. Anybody is listening or anything has resonated, it's Living Life Holistically. And I have a website, livinglifeholistically.com. And there's no commitment. I just feel better starting with a conversation. And it could just be that moment. So if anybody's listening and thinking whether now or later, or if somebody else they know may need this, it really is just about sharing. If it's not with me, but just someone, don't take on that heavy burden yourself, because we are made to connect with each other. We are made to share and empower and heal and strengthen each other. And if I can overcome rape, robbery, depression, suicidal thoughts, planning, anyone can, so long as you have the willingness to open up. That's the first key. Open up and share. You're not alone.
Yeah, we're all here as humans together, and to
Yes.
lean on each other, And if you don't open up and let somebody know what you're going through, how are they going to know to let you lean on them?
Exactly.
And luckily now the world has you to lean on because you've gone through it and you have the empathy, like you said. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story and your expertise. And I already have goosebumps just thinking about how this is going to impact the listeners, because I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you so much. You said your website. Could you mention that again, just so people can get
Sure.
a hold of you?
Sure. There's contact information there. I know the world is WhatsApp, so that's also available. But livinglifeholistically.com. That's the best platform to go to first, and then you can contact me from there, whichever method you feel is most suitable. But even if you just went to the website, just to have a look, just to get some kind of empowerment, reassurance, but livinglifeholistically.com.
Great. Well, you heard it directly from her, you guys. Anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give up. Push through. Find help. Open up, and live life holistically.
Live life holistically. Take the path of healing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Michele D Moore, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to speaking with you again.
Wow, it's been wonderful. Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you for having me. It's amazing. Thank you.
Great. Well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jordan. You too.